What's up, guys? NBA Talk, back with another video of talking to you about NBA teams. So far I talked about the Cavs and the Wizards, and so in this video I'll be talking about the Boston Celtic, right? I just noticed that one of my subscribers is a Boston Celtic fan, so I gotta make a big video about Boston, right? So how's the Boston Celtic doing this season? Well, I don't know. I don't know what's the current standing. I haven't paid too much attention to the East, or neither the West, because man, I don't look too much into basketball. I just care to look at the score, and that's about it. I mean, I pay attention to the West more than compared to the East, cause I don't live in the East Coast. Of course, man, I live in the Pacific Coast, which is located in the West in America, right? Yeah, the East Coast are kind of looking weak right now, man. Which doesn't sound good. But I think the East Coast was like strong in the beginning, but then they get a little bit weaker like as the season goes on. So the Boston Celtic used to be like the number one in the Eastern Conference, but then Toronto Raptor took over. Stuff like that, but I think they're either number 2 or number 3. But anyway, man, let's discuss about the Boston Celtics. So Boston Celtics are doing kind of decent this season. They struggle a little bit, like here on and here off. So at the beginning of the Boston Celtics season, they were losing 2 games in a row, right? And somehow they came out very strong until like November 22nd. The Miami like snapped Boston's like 16 winning streak. I mean, the Boston almost broke like the record in the NBA season. I mean, like an undefeated month, right? Let's just say that you have to win at least like 12 games without losing a single loss, according to Wikipedia and the NBA thing. If you win a minimum of 12 games in that month without losing a single game, minimum 12 games, then that team will be considered as an undefeated team in that month. But Boston Celtic, they won 16 games in a row, but then they were just 10 days away from being an undefeated like team in November of 2017. I thought they're gonna be undefeated, but they lost to the Miami Heat. Yeah, so that's how Celtic became the one, because they became because they won because the best record was like 16-2, but then they're losing more game as in December, right? I mean, they did lose to the Wizards in New York and the Heat probably a couple times. Yeah, I mean, they did lose to the San Antonio Spurs, and I think one of the Boston Celtics' worst game that I seen in 2017 before we move on to 2018 is the Chicago Bulls. Well, I have no idea. Maybe because of Boston's injury. I mean, in the end, I'll tell you what something really bad happened to the Boston, man. So one of the worst game is the Boston Celtic against the Chicago Bulls, right? They lost about 23 points. I know that the Chicago Bulls are like the worst team in the Eastern Conference, like before 2018 started, but then Orlando Magic is currently the worst team. And the Chicago Bulls are playing a little better, so they're like in the 12th or 11th seed. Yeah, I remember that team lost about 49 points to the Warriors. And somehow they beat the best team in the East like 23 points. So that's a little like inconsistencies. It's just kind of weird. But anyway, man, I just explained about how the Boston and they had a 4-game losing streak too. So they lose to the Pelicans, the Philadelphia Sixers. Yeah, they lost to the worst team in the East, Orlando Magic. You lost at home by 8 points? It's ridiculous. I mean, the Boston Celtics, they play with Orlando Magic, and Orlando Magic was leading as many as 19, so the Boston tried to come back, but it was just too many points. I mean, if there was another quarter for them, then probably the Boston would have won. And they get smacked by the Clippers by like 10 points. And the worst, yeah, I think the worst loss was Chicago Bulls, but not the Cleveland Cavaliers, because Cavaliers just got all their trade and they beat at Boston like over 20 points. I mean, I don't know if the Boston's gonna beat the Cavalier. I don't know who's better, Cavalier or Boston, but I see that Cavaliers like got like a lot of new trade and they were tanking up, but then after the NBA like All Star, the Cavalier like tanked down a little bit. So I just see that probably the Boston's are a little bit better than the Cavalier in my opinion right now, because right now in March of 2018, because the Cavalier just recently lost to the Sixers. They've been losing to like some like mediocre team, but they almost lost to the Brooklyn Nets. I can't believe the Cavaliers allowed like 123 points at their home. But anyway, not. So Boston still have a good chance of being Cavalier, but I don't think they can beat Toronto, man. I mean, if you like this video, or if you want me to talk more about other teams, just like this video, man. I might make a video about San Antonio Spurs, possibly the Minnesota Timberwolves, or a very underrated team, Toronto Raptors. I mean, nobody talks about Spurs or Toronto Raptors, man. I mean, they've been winning a lot of games too, but I know that Spurs has to deal with injuries and stuff. Yeah, that's why they're kind of tanking this year too. But anyway, I mean, the Boston did pretty well. They actually beat the Golden State Warrior one time, but then when it comes to Warrior, you know, the Warrior beat them. I mean, the last game that the Boston played was against the Charlotte Hornets. They played super well. They score around 130, which makes Boston themselves really proud. I mean, Boston's been struggling with their scoring, but then they shoot at least 130, man. That's something to be proud of against the Charlotte Hornets. Yeah, I mean, scoring 130 points, the team that struggled their offense, is not that easy. But they can do it if they put their mind to it and shoot a lot of threes, shoot better. They will definitely hit their goal. They will definitely meet there. But I don't know what's the Boston's current record. Their current record is 44-19, which is pretty good. You know, they kind of play bad around like January to like February. They were like losing games and stuff. They even lost to the Los Angeles Lakers by 1 point, which is kind of a shame. Yeah, and they did lose to the Toronto. Yep. So yeah, let me make a quick summary about the Boston Celtics. Yeah, the Boston Celtics are the best defense in the NBA, probably allowing a team, like an average team, like to score like under 100 points a game. But the one thing that is killing the Boston is their offense, man. They need to learn how to shoot better and stuff. Yeah, I mean, Boston's been struggling their offense and their scoring, but on the other hand, they're the best defensive team in the NBA. Well, probably not the best defensive team, but maybe the Spurs is the best defensive team in the NBA. Maybe that's why Spurs play a little more better than Boston, but Boston has a really good record right now. Sometimes they do allow like 120 points, but most of the time they allow under 100 points, which is good. I mean, Boston Celtic leaders. So I'm looking like who's the main player for the Boston Celtic. I know it's Kyrie Irving, that's one of them. I mean, without Kyrie Irving, Boston will probably be in the 5th or 6th seed because Kyrie Irving is a pretty good shooter. I mean, he wants to be traded out of the Cavaliers, maybe because of LeBron James. Yeah, so the team leaders for Boston Celtics is Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. And the most rebound for the Boston Celtics is the Marcus Morris. He's in third. Greg Maroon in second, and Al Horford. Field goal. I think Greg is the guy who scored like 58% field goal, mainly because he's too big to be defended and he's too strong. I mean, the best free throw is Kyrie Irving, and most like assists per game is Kyrie Irving, and the best 3-point shooter is Jason Tatum and Al Horford and Kyrie Irving, and most steal per game for the Boston is Marcus Smart, and most block in the game is Al Horford. So they got all the good players, right? But then, I mean, they have like about maybe like 8 rebounds per game and stuff. I mean, that's not 8 rebounds per game, but their best rebounder is Al Horford. Again. He has nothing much to say about the Boston. Okay, so here is what happened at the very beginning of the season. At the very first game, 5 minutes into the Boston Celtic game, you know, Gordon Hayward got his leg injury so badly. I'm like, yeah, I mean, in the draft round pick, I mean, the Boston Celtic got Gordon Hayward, right? I mean, the best scorer from the Utah Jazz, right? I mean, that's why the Utah Jazz was taking a little bit, because they lost their best like scorer in their team, and Hayward like moves to Boston, and then Gordon Hayward's probably out for the rest of the season, which kind of really hurts the Boston, man. I mean, if the Boston Celtics have Gordon Hayward, they will probably be a little bit better than comparing to right now. They're probably gonna win more games. But guarantee, I think the Boston's supposed to be number 1 is because Gordon Hayward's out. They suddenly like somehow drop below number 2 against Toronto Raptors. Yeah, I mean, Boston did not have their best player, man. I mean, the Boston future is not looking good right now, but with Gordon Hayward, the future will be a little more hopeful. But without Hayward, they became a little bit hopeless now. But they don't give up, man. They have to try hard without him, and they have to play well without him. So it is what it is, man. Wow. Boston's. So anyway, the next game that Boston will play is on March 3rd. They play against the Houston Rockets. They play at the Houston, man. So I wonder how many points the Rockets score. Probably not much, because the Celtics are gonna try to defense as tough as they can on the Rockets. Rockets gonna be a really tough game. I'm probably waiting to see that. And then they go to Chicago, and then Minnesota, and then I'm explaining about the March schedule for Boston. They go to Indiana Pacers. They play at home, Indiana Pacers, and the Washington Wizards. Travel to Orlando, the Pelicans, and then OKC comes here and to the Boston, and they go to Portland, Sacramento, Phoenix Suns, Utah, and Toronto back to the home. So if you feel you want anything about Boston Celtics, just comment below here. You don't know much about Boston Celtics, man, but I think Boston's is kind of like a little bit inconsistent. But to the Washington Wizards, they're more inconsistent compared to the Boston Celtics. So yeah. I mean, now they're getting a little bit better now. But I don't know how they're gonna do in the playoff, I don't know how the Boston do a playoff, but hopefully hopefully something comes out good. So peace out.